Hi, this is Keith. I want to talk today about something which is very important to me. As you know, if you've been following these videos, I've been involved with spiritual teaching, personal training, mediumship, and healing and meditation, awareness type work for around 30 years now. And a part of this work has been how we work with mind and how we work with the consciousness, the inner consciousness, the mind, the emotions. We can split this up quite simply into three parts: body, spirit, mind. The mind would then contain the emotional content. Or we can split it another way. We can talk about superconsciousness, which is the spiritual aspect of us, normal consciousness or mind emotion, and the unconsciousness. And these are simple ways of defining and splitting up the human being for understanding, to actually understand how we function, is extremely useful. Of course, we are always holistic. We're always just one being. But as you know, we have many parts, and as you know, if you're truthful with yourself, you tend to swing between various levels of emotion, feeling, etc. So what I'm going to talk about today is the creative mind, techniques of how to work with yourself, how to move your life forward, how to manifest, and how to create in a realistic way. What I want to achieve with this video is some steps that you can take by following the procedures in this video to help you in the process of creating a more fulfilling, happier, joyful life for you. To begin with, let me give you a little bit of background about the movement of positive thinking in the Western world. Really, we can go back to the bringing of yogic thought to America and Europe with people like Yogananda, and before Yogananda, Sri Vivekananda, and the mixing of this thought with the early positive thinking work of certain breakaway Christian groups in the USA, and these groups later became known as New Thought. You can look at New Thought, you can Google New Thought, or you can Google a wonderful research tool, and you can look at its various offshoots, science of mind, unity, etc., etc. And the interesting thing is that a lot of the teachers of this new positive thinking at the time were females. They were blazing a new road, introducing positive role models for women, and introducing into the old forms of Western Christian thinking a more gentle and positive aspect and interpretation of the Bible. So the roots of my training in positive thinking were in unity and science of mind. Alongside that, my wife Fiona studied hypnotism and hypnotherapy, and that also is an extremely useful tool to work with yourself. Okay, so with a very brief look at the history of my personal training and my approach to positivity, I will begin to give you a few little ideas which may help you. If you were training to be an athlete, if you want to be a top footballer or a tennis player, cyclist, boxer, martial artist, whatever, you would train the physical body, wouldn't you? You would train hard, you would focus. Not only would you focus and think of yourself as a top tennis player, for example, but you'd actually go out there, you'd find a trainer, and you would train your body to be extremely fit, flexible, and on top of that, you would train the mind. You would train the mind to visualize and to believe that you can be a very good tennis player. To help the body along its way, you would regulate certain patterns in your life. You would change maybe your sleeping patterns. You would be more concerned about getting 7 or 8 hours sleep at night, and you would look at the food that you ate. Now, this food aspect of training is very important for the physical body. But I would posit to you that at every level, if we were to split the energy field, for example, which I've talked about on the healing courses, into levels, you have the physical body, and then you have the etheric or chi body, and then you have the astral or emotional body close here, and sometimes quite large out. And beyond that, you'd have the mental body out into the higher mental body and what is known as the spiritual body or cosmic self. To talk about the body and think about the body, then we take an image. This is my body. So then I must have some kind of body that is astral, that can maybe leave at night or when I go into meditation and travel into other dimensions. Then we have, which is the emotional body, and then we have beyond that the mental body. But let us go back to that thing I mentioned before, food. So it's very important for me. I've just been into England and Sweden altogether for 6 weeks, and I put on about 1.5 kilos from eating foods which I know are not too good for me, but I love. But I understand from the physical level. Now I'm back in Spain. I've been out with Fiona and bought lots and lots of vegetables, olive oil and garlic, and we're cooking very simple vegetable food with some chicken or fish. And I've probably lost nearly 1 kilo in the 7 days I've been back. Plus, I have been training myself. I was lazy. I don't like walking on snow and ice, so I didn't do too much walking in Sweden. And it was Christmas time and New Year, and I was with family, and I was taking some alcohol, and I was taking chocolate and all of the foods and sweeties that we have at Christmas time. But I could feel my body beginning to rebel. And I could feel my emotions and mind beginning to rebel. And now I'm in this wonderful hilly town in the south of Spain, and I'm walking my dog 3 times a day, and I have hills like this, maybe even like this in gradient up the town to the castle, and I'm already training. I used to take the odd cigar, and for my New Year's resolution I decided to, as someone who practices a lot of yoga and qigong, I decided that it's really counter my work with qigong and yoga if I'm taking even a few cigars. So I've cut that out completely on New Year's Day. So my body feels like it's getting back into a rhythm, and it feels happier. I would say the cells of my body are talking to me and saying, yeah, this is what we want, Keith. About time, we 6 weeks is a long time to fill us with stuff that we don't want, chemicals in food, soft drinks, etc., etc. So now I'm back drinking water and some tea and some coffee, but I'm cleaning out, and I've hardly touched any alcohol since I've been back, because my body tells me it doesn't want that. A glass of wine, absolutely no beer for 7 days, and just a glass this big one I did. And I feel great, so I listened. So when we're dealing with techniques to change our mind and to manifest, we have to listen to something. So let me first go back to the food. The food is important. So, where does that fit into a creative mind? Well, I'll show you. Food brings a better balance in the chemicals in your brain. Good food creates vitality and allows the chi energy to move quicker and more balanced within the body. Now, let's go from the physical level to the astral level. We know that eating food and drinking beverages is the food or the nutrition for the physical body. And then we have the emotions. So what are the emotional foods? Well, it's very simple, really. The emotional level of us lives off emotion. So therefore, it is intimately linked to the next level, which is the mind. If I fill my mind with dark imaginings for the future, for example, then my emotions react in the stomach solar plexus energy, and I create a loop of negativity between the head and the solar plexus, affecting the heart. And the heart is the point of love. And love says to me, you are loved, Keith. And if I'm in the energy of love, which is a brilliant emotional food, then I am receiving a tremendous, what can I say, pure joy, energy of food in my emotional energy field. Now you can look at areas, times in your life when you've been feeling very down and negative, and you can think about that, and you can recall what happened. What usually happened is the person, whether it was me or someone else, replayed a lot of thoughts, usually from the past, and hung into images of the past, and collected around us feelings of powerlessness and anger and envy and all such brothers and sisters to envy and anger. And we collected those emotional patterns and thoughts and feelings, and we surrounded ourselves until we were overcome by the heavy feeling in the energy field, which then becomes a heavy feeling in the muscles of the body, etc., etc. So the food of the emotion is very important for you. And this is the emotion is the desire level too. So in the emotional level are the desires of, now let's go back to our first example, body, mind and spirit. The body needs and wants are what we generally call the personality. So there's the emotions of the personality. But as we move up the scale to the higher, more beautiful and rarefied emotions, in the higher emotional level, we get the feeling of deep love. We get the feeling of manifestation too, that God loves me, or the universe loves me, and the universe provides for me and gives me everything that I need. However, if I'm replaying and falling into the shadow parts of my old emotional self, the parts which I haven't cleaned out with the light of consciousness and awareness, then I will fall into those replay situations. And I will create, in the present moment, with people who love me, I will repeat energies of old relationships and old ways of feeling and seeing in the situation now. I will drown in a certain level of self-pity and poor me attitude. And that is the way to manifest. What, you said? It's the way to manifest? Yeah, absolutely it's the way to manifest. It's the way to manifest what you've always had when you've been down, which is a down spiral into deeper and deeper states of negativity in mind and emotion, leading to some very nasty states of depression if we're not careful. So the food of the emotions is very important, and if I have old patterns of clinging to the emotions of the past, then they are blocking any attempt I have to take something like, for example, the laws of attraction, where I focus emotionally on positive things. These old images, these old poor me patterns in my personality, and all the games I play with the relationships around me, what we might call the positive payoff of poor me, the attention, people patting me on the back and giving me, as they've done, and giving me sympathy for my poor, difficult life. All of those energies which block the manifestation of something positive will stop anything I work with law of attraction, or what we can call a law of creative mind, or just the creative mind. So it's very important to know at each level what food we're eating. Am I eating old emotions full of self-pity, full of pain, full of tears, and accompanied by a whole host of internal mental images? So you see, we have much going on between these levels constantly. And what is going on is a type of, when we're in the negative, is a type of negative loop, a catch-22 loop of energy. And it actually is looping through the system, and it's tight, and it's full of dark energy from the past and fears. And we have to break it somehow. We have to get beyond that, and we have to find the courage and because that's another food. Courage is something that's right in the gut and the heart, and it says, yes, Keith, I can do it. But to get that true feeling of courage, and not just read it and be in say a workshop and carry that while I'm there, but 2-3 days later to lose it, I have to make it my own. I have to not only work with it and find it within my emotional level, it must also become something in the mind. So we're moving then up from the emotional level to the mental level. And then I must ask the question again, what is the food of the mental level? Well, of course, the food of the mental level is thought itself, ideas, ideals, and if we are quite coordinated in our levels of the mind, then we have some idea of what we want with our life, what type of qualities we want with the life, what type of people we want in our life, what relationships we would like in our life, what type of work, what type of creative pastime, free time activity we would like, and also some future visions and ideas of where we want to live, the type of house we've got, the type of car we drive, the type of area we want to live in, country or city, and even the type of country you want to live in. What particular country would I like to live in? But it doesn't have to go that far. It's just at this higher level, we can look at making quality cooking. I'm going to cook something quality, a beautiful quality, and I'm going to eat it at the mental level. Okay, so what is quality of the mental level? Well, of course, the great teachers have told us about quality in the spiritual sense. You know, quality is to focus on the beauty of life, to focus on aspects of love, care, ideas about brotherhood and sisterhood and nation-loving nation and forgiveness of the past. And all these are beautiful qualities of the mind to experience. And we can get into those qualities, and they produce a certain, what I call spiritual compassion energy. And I have developed that, and I've worked with that from the teachings of Buddha to some Hindu teachings and the mystical teachings of Christ, etc. And it helped. However, there's something behind or above even that level of the mind, so that the food of positive reading, for example, reading books on positive thinking or positive psychology, or how to transform your life, how to create better mental images in your day-to-day experience is very, very important. But then I ask, what's behind that? So we go into the next level, very, very top of the head and the energy up here. So what is beyond the mind? What is beyond the thoughts in the mind? And when I asked myself this question many years ago, I realized there was a coordinator of my consciousness. There was something watching the thoughts. There was something that could say yes and no to the thoughts, that could actually steer the thoughts into a certain particular pattern. And if that part of me, which I just call the I am or higher self or soul consciousness, if that part of me is in control, I began to notice how wonderful things occurred in my life, how money came to me when I didn't have any, how surprises of love and new friendships came into being, or creative projects just flowed into my life in 1,001 different ways. But more importantly than that, I realized that was what I felt like I was living emotionally when I was connected to my I am consciousness or the higher self consciousness. I was truly in a type of extremely secure center. It felt like I was in my own world. I could connect and was fully connected, aware into this physical world and all of its bits and pieces, but I created, I could write my own script of my life. I could begin in powerful ways to make my life flow in certain ways. It also seemed, looking back, I can truly say this, it seems that when I'm in that flow, and other people I've met who are in that flow, that the memory becomes better, we learn easier, we have a far greater capacity to stand firm on our path, we don't get thrown around so much by other people's energies or judgments of us. We could say we don't live just to please others, but we follow something even more than the I am. And that's the voice of that higher self, which has been termed quite rightly intuition. This wonderful word, intuition. So what does intuition actually mean? Well, if you know the foundation of the word, tuition is teaching or teacher. Teacher gives tuition and I receive it. So tuition is teaching. In. The inside teacher. Quite simple. The inside teacher. And I think I was very fortunate that some people would call me arrogant, some people would call me antisocial, troublemaker, whatever. But I had this intuition that meant I could not easily be seduced by ideas. In other words, if my intuition told me something was partly true and the rest was exaggeration or imagination or fantasy, my intuition would guide me through this, and it meant that I didn't get involved deeply in groups which were very much connected to having a very specific ideology, dogma, cultish type groups, because my intuition just showed me, take this bit, kid, pick this apple, taste it, experience it, absorb it, feel what it's doing for you, but don't eat the apple that you don't feel for. In other words, take the mental food that the intuition is guiding you to. And that is another part of this. We work now, haven't we, from the beginning of this talk, from the physical and its food to the a quick look at the emotions and its food and its tendency to eat old food in a way, of all the old emotions of the past, old rotting and smelly food actually, because it smells of self-pity and pain. And in all honesty, we don't want to keep eating that food, because that is the food in the emotional level that creates fear, and it's tied into memories and feelings of our childhood, and no matter how good our childhood was, we often, because we were children, didn't feel competent, because in truth we weren't competent. I couldn't do brilliant maths at 4 years old, and I couldn't work out how certain things worked at 5 or 6 years old. So there's an inherent tendency to feel a stupidity, no matter how good our parents were or the school was, because there's that memory and feeling of not being able to do what adults could do. So that is the basic, if we understand psychology, that's the basic pattern of inferiority complex that every person has to a certain extent. And it's at the emotional level that type of feeling in the body, and when it replays in the mind, memory, or maybe just a semi-conscious uneasiness in the mind, creates a disempowerment, taking away power. So when we begin to understand the patterns and the shadows that are potential blocks for our manifestation, for our creative mind, we can say to them, okay, I feel you, I sense you, but you're just an old pattern, and I love you, but I'd like you to transform. I'd like you to allow joy into that memory, because there was some joy in that memory. For there were times in my childhood when I felt totally distraught, totally humiliated by life. and totally suppressed by life. But there was other times when I felt tremendous power in my small body and tremendous excitement at learning something new, and I can remember that too. So even in the darkest time, when an old emotion is coming through, then understand that beside it, alongside it, or somewhere near it is another memory, a positive memory, a memory which is full of life and full of the feeling of I can, I can, I can. And the reason I say this is there with everybody is because no matter how destructive and difficult a childhood someone's had, they still have the energy of the soul and the life force and the I am, or the higher self. And that is not destroyed by these games of life. Games of life. Now you might say, game of life? Life game? Well, yes, in many, many ways, life is a game. It's a game. It's a serious game. It's a fun game. It's a challenge. Yet, it is a game. And it is a partial reality, because no matter what happens to you, I can prove to you quite quickly, if you just close your eyes, for example, and go inwards, you lose sense of the body. You just have an inner space. And that inner space is not fully connected all of the time to this physical body. It's partially connected to other feelings that are non-physical. So we come as a something, a energy of consciousness into the baby, and we develop through various stages. And there's problems arise, and these problems are connected to those feelings of fear, feelings of not being loved. Not being loved. We've all been there, yeah? Am I loved? Yeah, I'm very loved by a lot of people, especially my family and my wife and some of my friends. Yet, am I loved always? Do I feel love always is maybe the better question. No, I don't. Because I have memories of times when I didn't feel love, when I didn't feel people understood me. Or I have memories of when I did something with a good intention and people misinterpreted that intention. Or, for example, when I used the positive mental food of truth, of actually pointing out the inconsistency in teaching, for example, the Roman Catholic teaching of my childhood, or later some political teachings that I came across and was indoctrinated into and later left. I told truths, and those truths, or I demolished an argument by showing how it can be seen from another level of logic, another line of logic. And I wasn't loved. So you see, the I am, higher self, is not bothered about these things because it uses truth, which is one divine quality, and it uses love, but it doesn't expect love back. If it gets love back, it's happy. So when we start moving out of the old patterns of emotions, then we really begin to reach what I call the creative manifesting mind. And the creative manifesting mind is not actually even bothered by any physical injury or incapacity. It works through that and uses the body to the best of its ability. It doesn't worry about old negative patterns. It can still work through those. But the creative spiritual mind, the creative mind, knows also how to deal with, work with, and find systems of understanding to release these old negative patterns. And it's when we get to that point of I amness, or the higher self, where we are constantly able to feel or sense the intuition, that we have extremely interesting things begin to happen to us. What happens is that the higher or the inner consciousness begins to organize all of these levels. It begins to organize the structures of my thinking, for example. It begins to use a very highly abstract energy to be able to look into various systems and to synthesize or to synchronize those systems so that I can use them in my life, and I can use them because of my chosen work. I can use them with other people to help overcome their problems or blocks or difficulties in their thinking and emotional systems. So what happens then is we sense something very sacred when we get to this level of intuition. We understand that life is not just a physical journey. And we understand that the processes that we've been through in this life that we've lived, and the hurts and difficulties, were part of, at some level, a choice. And that choice was to face certain tests, certain possibilities. And what came out of that is like an artist with a tremendous amount of colours and different materials to work with all of those materials, which can be what we can call a difficult start in life. We have much more to play with. We have much more potentiality. We have much more richness in our emotional self. So when people come to me as a trainer or on readings or when I'm on workshops and say, well, you don't understand the things I've been through, etc., etc., I listen for a while. And then usually I turn around and I will say to them, that's not the worst story I've heard. Or, do you really think that was so bad? Or they will say to me something like, well, I didn't choose this life. And earlier they've been on the workshop and they've said that they believe in karma and reincarnation. So I say, so did you fall into this life? You just happened to come here? And then they start to think. Because what I'm doing with all those kind of what may seem like hard words, and they're not hard words, they might be hard if you look at it from your personality, but if you look at it from the spiritual growth perspective of the higher self or I am consciousness, we have to at some point whack that person out of their poor name. We have to get them focused in on another game of life, and that is the game of seeking one's full potential. And all the time they keep telling this story of the past and the difficulties and etc. They miss something very positive, and this is the critical point, that they have been given by their choice to be born to that family in that particular place and that particular situation. They've given themselves a wide, big canvas and many colours and many artistic materials, and they can build and they can draw and they can paint the most wonderful of life if they have one thing: a belief in the beauty and individuality of their I am higher self-consciousness. The second follow-on to that is to understand that if we can link to that I am higher self-consciousness with intuition, then that part of us, that part that is in all truth non-physical, beyond the physical, that will teach us how to open up to the powers within our higher personality, the I am consciousness itself. And then what happens is like an opening of a cork. Oh, that's a good image that just came to mind, actually. It's like I've got a bottle, I call it my personality, and I shine the outside of this bottle, and I say, this is me. Look, this is me. I've got a nice label on it here, look. It's got some blue and gold writing, and this is me. It's got my name, Keith Surtees. Look at me, look at me. And then I come from a higher perspective of awareness, and I begin to see inside that bottle, oh my God, look at that. It's dirty water. It's full of mud. Shake it, ooh, and I shake it, and the mud from the bottom rises, and the whole of the water in the bottle becomes brown. Okay, now that bottle, which is personality, as the higher self, I take this out, and I empty it. And then I take the wonderful cosmic water, the pure life water of life itself, and I pour it in there, and I do this, and I clean it out. All those old emotions, all of those old stories, all of those old thinking patterns, out you come. Give it another wash, and then I fill it with divine water. But I do something really clever. I don't then say, oh look, I'm divine, and put the cork on, and put the bottle out among all the other bottles or all the other personalities. I decide to leave the top off and allow a little bit of the cosmic water to run into me and overspill like an energy and out into the world, so that I become a clear fountain of pure water. And pure water in this sense, in this way, represents pure positive emotion. So I'm open here and I'm allowing cosmic desire into me, with all of its joy and all of its possibilities and all of its wonderful, wonderful powers to heal me, to bring me out of self-pity, and I think more importantly, to show me the interconnectedness of the journey of life and the interconnectedness of everybody I meet. That there's no person out there, people who know my teaching tend to come back to me and tend to, every now and again, might be 10 years or 12 years, every now and again come back and come onto one of my courses and come for a reading or a personal training session, mind, spirit training session. They come back. Why do they come back? I know why. It's because all my life I've been linked in some way to that inner intuition and that consciousness of pure love and light that is the higher self, or I am presence, I am consciousness. And why do we call it I am? Well, the highest level, the I am, was always seen as God. God said I am. That's the name of God. And at the highest level, we are connected to that I am God consciousness, which means that our lives are sacred. One of the things that I see all around me when I travel to Sweden, Norway, England, and work is a type of blocking off of potentiality, life potential, and happiness potential, and true potential to live life fully with joy, compassion, fearlessly live life. And that is blocked off because people talk about, I've read this book, and I'm doing this spiritual thing, etc., etc. But all the time this is outside. And very few have gone inside to understand that intuition, which leads to the I am, or God consciousness within, is the pathway of positive life and the only truth. Everything else, every word I say is just a finger pointing. It's a word, it's a symbol. If you can feel what I'm saying, if you can connect with what I'm saying, it's because it resonates, it vibrates at the same frequency as something within your I am consciousness. And my words will be used by your higher self to help your personality awaken to it, not me, to it. So I am someone who rings a bell in the silence, or in the storm, when someone's going through an emotional storm. I ring a beautiful spiritual bell, like a Tibetan bell. And that is the sound of a person who has achieved a certain level of I amness, or higher self-consciousness, or beingness. These are all the same thing. And they have a connection to God, or the cosmic intelligence. And if you don't want to use that word, just the creative vacuum or the creative space of cosmos itself, the mindfulness of life itself. All of these don't matter, they're just words, but it is an actual state, and a state means something which one can feel with every breath one takes. And once we begin to achieve that state, the game of life becomes a great joy. And the beauty of the work, and it is work, a wonderful, gorgeous, amazing, awesome work. The work of awakening to this consciousness of the higher self or the inner self, this enlightenment within, which then begins to show you some very important factors: life pathway, purpose, creative ideas, emotions, joys, love. What more can I say? You become more alive, you become attuned to the absolute, the primordial, the beginning and the end of the physical universe is within you, as is the beyond of the physical thing, beyond time. All this is within you. And within that, you might think, oh my God, I'm getting lost. How can I use this in positive thinking? You don't have to worry about that, because the intuition simplifies everything for you. You can have great meditations and go off into formlessness and feeling cosmic energies of love, etc. But when you come back more into the physical body, if you're doing that type of meditation or awareness in the correct way, you will have life enhancement. Everything about your life will be enhanced, will become bigger. Everything positive. You'll have more energy to do with the play or the game of life. You will have more ability to manifest through the creative principles of the mind, through your I am consciousness of the higher self, beginning to regulate and coordinate and take control of the mass of food you've put into you in the past, some very, very fast and nasty food. When you've accepted readings of this book and talks without thinking much, and all of these conflicting spiritual ideas or psychological ideas that are part true, part not true, or actually in reality complete lies just to sell a book or to make a film. All of those conflicting things that have pushed you here, this is what I believe, this is what I believe, they just are moving around this intuition like a dance of shadows. And you begin to get the intuition from the guru of the I am within you. And that guru, which is you at the highest level of consciousness, which is close to and separated by only the finest of material, spiritual material, it is the God consciousness itself. And you can begin to feel that oneness. And at that level of awareness, there's a tremendous feeling of love. There's a tremendous feeling of I can. And it's true at that level, because all of the energies have become aligned, or much more aligned, in the physical body, in the mental, emotional bodies. Then everything you put your mind to begins to manifest. And because you've worked through various levels of emotions, you're now manifesting not at the personality. Through the personality, yes, but you're manifesting from the I am consciousness of the higher self, which is connected to the compassion, the love, and the purpose of God or universal mind. So then you begin to see something which takes us a bit beyond the secret and the law of attraction to the law of awakening, the law of enlightenment. But of course, it's a long journey. It can take a lifetime. And if you're at the level of just wanting to manifest a Lamborghini or a nice big house in Miami or whatever it is you want, then that focus will be within you for a while. But it won't stay there, because you begin to realize that what substance, or what's behind substance, the substance of the universe. Sub means substance. It lies behind or under. The substance of the cosmos is not material things. It is the deep level of cosmic thought and feelings. You begin to realize, even if you manifest your Lamborghini or your nice house in Miami, they didn't quite give you what you wanted. There's something more there. I want something more. And then you begin to look for that something more. And the something more is the quality. What will the thing you want to manifest achieve for you? What do you really want? First, when I give people this question on creative mind courses or manifestation courses, they come up with simple ideas like, I want a new relationship, and I want a new house, or I want to move and live in London, or I want to move to Stockholm and not live in the countryside, or something like this. And that's fine. And that's the level I work at. But later in courses we go into something I call refined wants. The refined one. What is the essence? What is the inner core of that thing you say you want? What is the quality that that thing will give to you? And that's other processes that we use within training to use the creative mind to help bring the person into a deeper connection to themselves. Okay, well, this is just a kind of introductory talk to how you can use the creative mind of manifesting in your life. I'm doing a course on this beginning in February this year in Sweden, and later on I will have further courses. But all I want to do with this talk is to, at least with this short time we've had, to give you some enthusiasm and hope and faith that even if you've been to courses before and you've worked with things like the law of attraction, etc., and you feel like you've got nowhere, there's other methods that are connected to actually very ancient and old techniques that work, that have been pushed to the side to simplify teachings in truth to make them more commercial. And with those keys missing, often these more commercialized teachings don't actually achieve what you really need to achieve. And it's these bits that come from the esoteric teachings of the past, that come from the Western alchemy and Kabbalistic teachings, for example, and knowledge from the East about the chakras and their function, things like karma and how that relates to the ideas of manifesting, etc., working with past energy, and ideas of the grace of God or the blessings of God, etc. All these need to come into the understanding to free you from patterns within the personality. So we need that, what I've talked about much in my talks, integral psychological knowledge that integrates the personality, the emotions within the personality, the mind, and the glories of your cosmic consciousness. Integrate this into a whole beautiful, gorgeous mandala of great color and beauty. Okay, I think I've said enough. This talk is quite long now, but I hope this whets your appetite on your ability to manifest and use your own creative mind to start new changes in your relationships. As I say, it's just I dipped quickly into these areas and covered actually a very deep subject in a short time. Obviously, in my other talks, there's more information, and if you come for personal reading, then you get more information personally to you. And if you come on a workshop, then you connect to the group and its loving energy and its dreams and ideas, and we bounce ideas off each other, and it's an exciting process of exploration. I wish you all well. I truly hope, if you're one of those people that feels stuck, that feels inadequate or afraid of life, that you understand that our tested and tried tools of consciousness and techniques of work that can change all of this and bring about for you the opening of the doorway to the future, and that on that road moving forward through time, and understanding that you are the creator, and although life is a collective and some things come to us out of the collective that we don't personally create, we can maneuver through that. And in fact, that's part of our training, to understand that it's not just I that create, it's we that create. And with that, we go further, but not on this talk. But I will just say, what is that further? That further is collective manifesting a new world of love, compassion, etc. A peaceful world, and protection of this planet, so that we can exist for millions of years to come in a heavenly condition of expansion and more connection to the universe itself. Okay. Nice talking to you all. Have a great day. Thank you very much.